Good morning, listeners, and welcome once again to Grass is Blue. I'm your host, Ella Cope, and this week we're going to be talking about the intersections between punk music and outlaw country music. I would like to include a trigger warning for this show. There will be descriptions of violence and topics of substance abuse, police violence, and the prison system. Without further ado.
This show was born out of a conversation. So this show was born out of a conversation I had with my dear metalhead friend, Steve, whereupon they asked me if I'd like to have a conversation about outlaw country and punk being basically the same genre. So Steve has actually co-edited and co-created our show today and will be hosting with me. Hi, Steve.
Hello, and hello everybody listening. How are you?
I'm well. It's always a good time here on Grass is Blue. So what brought up the topic of outlaw and punk for you? How did you first make that connection?
Well, my first initial thought is about the ideas that these kind of anti-state, nihilistic, and just overall aggressive tones show themselves throughout both genres of music, and it became more apparent while these two cultures are very different. Their ideologies share more than you'd think of overlap.
Yeah, I was really inspired by your observation, and it caused me to start to think about the ways in which outlaw country treats the state, like you said, and how it treats violence, how it treats criminality, and how punk music treats a lot of those subjects really similarly. To get us started, here is Merle Haggard with an outlaw country classic, which glorifies living outside the bounds of society in one way or another. Here is Mama Tried.
First thing I remember knowing was a lonesome whistle blowing and a youngin's dream of growing up to ride on a freight train leaving town, not knowing where I'm bound, and no one could change my mind but Mama tried. The one and only rebel child from a family meek and mild, my mama seemed to know what lay in store. Despite all my Sunday learning, towards the bad I kept on turning, till Mama couldn't hold me anymore. I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one could steer me right, but Mama tried. Mama tried, Mama tried to raise me better, but her pleading I denied. That leaves only me to blame, 'cause Mama tried. Daddy, rest his soul, left my mom a heavy load. She tried so very hard to fill his shoes, working hours without rest, wanted me to have the best. She tried to raise me right, but I refused. And I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one could steer me right, but Mama tried. Mama tried, Mama tried to raise me better, but her pleading I denied. That leaves only me to blame, 'cause Mama tried.
That was Five Finger Discount by Choking Victim. While crime is often glorified in these genres, there are some conditions that crime has to meet in order for it to be justifiable under these frameworks.
So within the genre of punk, crime itself isn't necessarily rewarded or glorified. It's what justifies the crime that gives it its reward and renown. Theft isn't necessarily rewarded, but if you're stealing from a corporation, then you're doing good. Violence isn't condoned, but if you're committing violence against an abuser or an oppressive authority figure, such as a police officer, then it's rewarded. It's seen as like a badge of honor, doing what you can to stick it to the man and try and take down the state.
Similarly, in outlaw country, violence isn't always justified. There has to be some sort of transgression that's occurred before it's justified. So there's a vigilantism that comes into the genre where the hero of the story is delivering justice that the state can't or that the state won't. And a good example of this is murder. In some of the songs we're going to listen to, the singer stipulates that they'd warned the victim that if they kept on doing what they were doing, they're going to get it coming to them. And therefore, the violence is justified. This is obviously a flawed framework, but it is what outlaw country espouses. So we're going to listen to Coulter Wall's interpretation of this theme first. And then we're going to listen to a song by the Misfits.
And the fun thing about the Misfits is they are an outlier. And by that, I mean that most of their lyrics aren't based on anything political or societal. It comes from their love of these sci-fi, horror, B-movies, the Universal monsters, and that's what kind of gives it its glorification, is their love of those specific types of media that they just want to honor those themes. The Misfits are the kings of camp and punk.
Without any further ado, here is Ballad of a Law-Abiding Sophisticate.
Well, marry me to a rope and a tree. What that old judge called first degree. And all the folks around town swore to lay me in the ground. They found out I put that poor boy down. You see, I did not much care for the way that he'd sit and glare. So I closed his eyes for good with a barroom chair. So gonna lay my poor bones past Appalachian stone, far beneath that cold ground all alone. Oh, but if you're asking me, where I would rather be, it was worth it to see that boy cut from the knees.
I know you'll excuse me if I say goodnight. I've got a promise to fulfill. Thank you for listening to my troubles. Pardon me, I've got someone to kill. I warned him not to try and take her from me. He laughed and said, if I can, you know I will. So tonight, when they get home, I'll be waiting. Pardon me, I've got someone to kill. I know I'll surely die for what I'm about to do, but it don't matter, I'm a dead man anyhow. This gun will buy back the pride they took from me, and also in this life of mine that's worthless now. By the time you tell the sheriff, it'll all be over. He'll find me at their big house on the hill. He'll find a note explaining why I killed us all. Now it's time to go, I've got someone to kill.
That was Johnny Paycheck with Pardon Me, I've Got Someone to Kill. Outlaws know that when they commit crimes, they'll have to face repercussions for them. They know they live under a state, even if they disagree with it. Therefore, agents of the state, i.e. police, are treated as enemies, but prison time is seen as kind of inevitable and part of the outlaw lifestyle. Similarly, in the punk protest culture, getting arrested is somewhat honorable and encouraged. Much of outlaw country is therefore centered around prisons, and much of punk music is explicitly anti-cop.
We are now going to listen to Police Struck by the Dead Kennedys.
Tonight that we got the truck, we're going downtown, gonna beat up the drunks. You're to the drive, I'll bring the beer. It's a late shift, no one to fear. And ride, ride, I'll ride. And ride, you ride. It's a roundup time with a good horse. We're gonna drive one screaming off the street. And ride, ride, I'll ride. Uniform and a silver badge. Play cops for real and play cops for pay. Let's ride, you ride. flag stick. There's 6 of us, babe, so suck on my dick and ride, ride, how we ride. Let's ride, you ride. The left newspapers like who I'm a bit, but the guys at the station, they don't give a shit. Dispatch calls, oh, you're doing something wicked. No, sorry, Jack, we're just giving tickets. Let's ride, ride, how we ride. And ride, ride, how we ride. And ride, ride, how we ride. Let's ride, you ride.
I hear the train a-comin', it's rollin' around the bend, and I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, and time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps a-rollin' on down to San Antone. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blowing, I hang my head and cry. I bet there's rich folks eating in a fancy dining car. They're probably drinking coffee and smoking big cigars. Well, I know I had it coming. I know I can't be free. But those people keep a moving, and that's what tortures me. From this prison, if that railroad train was mine, I bet I'd move it on a little farther down the line, far from Folsom Prison. That's where I want to stay. And I'd let that lonesome whistle blow my blues away.
Standing beside the road in Blackjack County, not knowing the sheriff paid a bounty for men like me who didn't have a penny to our names. So he locked my leg to 35 pounds of Blackjack County change. And all we had to eat was bread and water. And each day we had to build that road a mile and a quarter. The black snake whip would cut our backs, some poor fool complained. And you couldn't fight back wearing 35 pounds of Blackjack County chain. And then one night when the sheriff was a-sleepin', we gathered all around him, slowly creeping. Heaven help me to forget the night in the cold, cold rain, when we beat him to death with 35 pounds of Blackjack County chain. Now the whip marks have all healed, and I am thankful that there's nothing but these scars around my ankles. But most of all, I'm glad no man will be a slave again to a black snake whip and 35 pounds of Blackjack County chain. To a black snake whip and 35 pounds of Blackjack County chain. Blackjack County chain.
That was Charlie Crockett with a really interesting take on the outlaw prison narrative coming from the perspective of an African-American man interacting with the prison leasing system. Since the Civil War, US prisons have used the practice of convict leasing, which is when prisoners are essentially rented out to conduct labor on the private marketplace. And they have combined this with racially discriminatory laws, such as Jim Crow laws, as a way to legally extract free labor from African-American people who have been wrongly convicted of a crime. Before that was the absolute classic Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues, perhaps the singular, the most iconic outlaw country song. Now, in all of these songs, there's a tone of nihilism and this general mourning for either the singer themselves or the society or community in which they reside.
Our next two songs highlight this similarity. Coming up, we got Dust in a Baggie by Billy Strings.
I ain't slept 7 days, 783. Methamphetamine has got a damn good hold of me. My tweaker friends have got me to the point of no return. I just took the lighter to the bulb and watched it burn. This life of sin has got me here. Well, it's got me back in prison once again. I used my only phone call to contact my daddy. Got 20 long years for some dust in a baggie. Papa said I wouldn't be locked up in prison, troubled in hell. I took that little pop and sucked until my mind was spun. I got 20 years to sit and think of what I've done. This life of sin has got me. Well, it's got me back in prison once again. I used my only phone call to contact my daddy. Got 20 long years for some dust in a baggie. Blues have got me singing this old song. My life is a disaster, Lord, and I feel so ashamed. In here where they call me by a number, not a name. This life of sin has got me here. Well, it's got me back in prison once again. I used my only phone call to contact my daddy. Got 20 long for some dust in a baggie. I use my only phone call to contact my daddy. Got 20 long years for some dust in a baggie.
I'm looking back to see the sand. Was it me or was it instead? Not even as far as done before. You don't think it's funny, noise, crying, truck out of my head. And you're thinking jump set. Take too much like none again. I got no reason left to know. Stupid kid don't really know. I got bottom trends flow. Into the bed like you decide. I got in your arms to suicide. Crying, I'm trying, out my head. And you're thinking jump set. Take too much like none again. I got no reason left to know.
That was Self-Destruct by Adolescence, which is just a really distilled form of what punk music is all about, isn't it now?
Of course it is.
And now, while nihilism might be important to punk music, the most important aspect of outlaw country is a rejection and an alienation from broader society. After all, they are outside of the law. The lone wolf lifestyle of an outlaw is seen as simultaneously liberatory and isolating. Punk music takes up a similar banner of liberation in exchange for alienation.
In the early days of punk rock, in the 1970s, forming in Great Britain, it was less so about being political and more about being angry about those feelings of alienation. And what that in turn did was attract right-wing and fascist and white supremacists to the scene. We still feel that in the scenes today, similarly to outlaw country, where we've attracted these terrible people in the early days and they latch onto it and they think it's theirs as well, when they're the people we are raging against.
Yeah. In outlaw country, it's a bit different because conservatism was the genesis of outlaw country. It has always been a conservative genre, and unfortunately, the sort of lone wolf persona that I referenced earlier has been used by conservatives to excuse perpetrators of real world violence, not just fictional violence in songs. So while punk has attracted right-wing folks undesirably, outlaw country over time has actually attracted progressive and left-wing folks to try to bring the genre up to the 21st century and innovate upon it. So we're going to hear from one of those people, Chris Stapleton, with his song, Outlaw State of Mind.
Cut my teeth on Daddy's old LGO, and I lost my mind somewhere in New Mexico. And T-W put a snake on my back. I keep a red bone on my side. And there's people all across the land, from East Kentucky down to Alabama, holding like I am all the time, in an outlaw state of mind.
That was Class Holes by Iron Reagan, and before that, it was Banned in DC by Bad Brains. Obviously, Iron Reagan is espousing this political message in a song, largely in response to the Reaganism and conservatism that came from Ronald Reagan and the influence that that had going on in American culture, kind of ushering in this modern conservatism.
At this point, it must be said that while these genres use similar tropes in their lyrics and are often coming from similar emotional states, the real world political outcomes of these two genres and cultures could not be more different.
While punks see freedom as an opportunity for all to gain equity,
Conservative fans and makers of outlaw country view freedom as a license to prioritize the individual over everything.
in both these genres, however, we can find the possibility of progress and the artistic ability to create new expressions. Let's hear from some creators doing just that today. This one is by Gloss, aka Girls Living Outside Society's Shit.
They told us we were girls, and we don't just look and cry. They told us we were girls, so we claimed our female lives. Now they tell us we are girls, our femininity doesn't fit. We're fucking future girls, living outside society's shit. We're from the future, we're from the past. We're the one rolling out of misery's ass. We're ready to have from before their record. The simple cannon and the royal blood. The future, faggots and fans. The future, not just any outcast girls. Living outside society's shit. What's the point? It's looking in the room, trying to build skinheads because of self-love. We don't need validation from them. We think that the shit they get away with our fans. Future, faggots and fans. The future, not just any outcast.
Another donkey. Don't be a jerk. What should you work for? Not the donkey. Don't be a jerk. What should you work for?
That was Do the Dog by The Specials. And I have to say, Steve, I never thought I'd be playing ska here on Grass is Blue, the bluegrass and country show.
Ska comes everywhere, man. And why I decided to include a ska song and not, I guess, ska punk song, kind of like what we heard with Choking Victim, is that the early genesis of ska helped fuse with punk and almost helped develop its political identity. And the famous black and white checker design that is almost now synonymous with ska music and ska culture originated as a symbol of racial unity among the primarily Jamaican immigrants migrating to the United Kingdom and the white punks and rockers who were already there, and they came together and fused both of their native musics, and that's what gives us ska music.
Steve, it has been an incredible time having you here today. Thank you so much for coming on Grass is Blue.
Thank you for having me. This has been a real pleasure, and I hope the listeners out there have enjoyed it more than we have, because this is some really cool music and some really interesting history and cultural overlap.
Yeah, and I never would have been able to put this show together without you, because you, as I have stated, are my resident punk and metalhead friend. So we've combined our expertise to create what you see before you today in this show. Well, folks, that's all the time we have on Grass is Blue. We're gonna leave you with the two kings of outlaw country, Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson. Here is Mamas, Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys.
Yeehaw.
Cowboys ain't easy to love and they're harder to hold. They'd rather give you a song than diamonds or gold.
Lone Star belt buckles and old faded Levi's, and each night begins a new day. If you don't understand him, and he don't die young, he'll probably just ride away.
Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Don't let them pick guitars or drive them old trucks. Let them be doctors and lawyers and such. Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. 'Cause they never stay home and they're always alone, even with someone they love.
Cowboys like smoky old pool rooms and clear mountain mornings,
Little warm puppies and children and girls of the night. Them that don't know him won't like him, and them that do sometimes won't know how to take it.
he ain't wrong, he's just different, but his pride won't let him do things to make you think he's right.
Mama, don't let your babies grow up